So just so you know a bit about my background, so who's this fellow standing up the front? Where does his experience come from? A lot of it's been built from the ground up as a salesman through to management. So I started my career at Lowe's Menswear, those crazy ads Lowe's. Started on the shop floor, as I always say, selling socks and undies, and worked my way through. I ended up spending 18 years at Lowe's because that's what you did back then. You spent, long terms in one job, and we wanted security, and we didn't really move on. And then the last 6 years of that 18 years, I moved into HR and training, and that's where I started to get my passion for HR, doing a lot of training, and then I got an opportunity in the HR department. Then I spent 10 years in the pharmacy industry with Maloof Pharmacies. They're now owned by Ramsay Healthcare, but that was 18 of those pharmacies in Queensland, and I looked after HR for all their staff across Queensland. Then I went to Surf Life Saving Queensland for 6 years. You might have seen I've been a volunteer lifesaver with Coochie for the last 15 years, patrolling those massive waves over there at Coochie Mudlow. And then I decided on a change. I really wanted to be in HR, and as Jenny and I were talking about earlier, just took that step to start my own business. And my real passion is helping small, medium businesses with their HR support, like Susie said. That's the area where small businesses can't afford full-time HR, don't need full-time HR, but need someone to talk to help to deal with HR matters. I always get concerned because HR does have a bad name, particularly in a lot of corporates. The stories are, I'm not going to go to HR, I can't trust HR. Yep, I see some smiles there. HR is for the boss. Well, I'm trying to break down that barrier as a small business owner. If clients want to take me on to support their business, I've got to be there for the owner that pays my bill, but I also have to have the scope to be there for the employee as well. And that's why we've got, mental health and wellbeing here today and all that, the different things. We have to be there to support the employees and you. It's got to be a balance, and that's part of what my presentation is going to be about today. And I just want to say, when we talk about great mentors, my first boss at Lowe's, there it is again, Mac was his name. I had a pretty difficult entry into the workforce for different reasons, and that's another whole hour. But I had a great boss who I look back now all those years, and he's sadly passed on now, but he was a fantastic mentor for me. You know why? Because he cared about the people side of me, not just the job I did, all those years on. And then the CEO of Surf Life Saving Queensland is still a great friend of mine. I still do work for him in a different capacity now. But there's people on that list that still impact on me in me starting in the workforce. And I guess I just want you to think about that message too with people coming into your workforce or people you've got now. Can they say that about you? Would they stand here and say that you've made an impact positively on them as a person and working for different reasons? That's up for you to have a think about. So we've already really talked about this, the opportunity to outsource. From a small business point of view. And I know for each of us, we don't work to lock in contracts and things that's small. We're tailored to small business where we can work with you with small EAP services rather than the big cookie cutters, and Sharon service mine and Ben when you need him as well. So we're tailored to business. So please look at outsourcing as an option. As Susie said before, I've been able to help her with a few different things in her business. But one of the things I just want to quickly start with is the shift in the workforce and the shift in our thinking. So there's that's a pretty old office photo there, but I can see there's a few of you in the room that are my vintage. And you may remember our workforce back 20, 30 years ago. That was the office environment. But things like in the retail environment, for me, we certainly wouldn't have been trying to sort out a Slido back 20, 30 years ago. We wouldn't have even known what that was. But in a retail environment, we would remember the dulcet tones of the fax machine, whether it was in your office or next to your cash register. I don't know about you, but the cash register in my retail store, if it turned off or it shut down, it was like 3 or 4 hours to reboot. I predate barcodes. There's smiles in the room. I remember the days without barcodes on products, working at Lowe's in those early days. And then what about my favourite? Anyone remember the old bank card machine? I want to pay by bank card, get out the bank card and clunk, clunk. With the younger ones are looking at me going, what is he talking about? And what if you were missing one? You had to go through the garbage bin at the end of the shift and try and look at it in the bin and see which one it was you were missing. And then my favourite bit, making someone re-sign because you didn't think their signature was right. Remember that? You're a criminal. That's not your signature. And then the next step, having to ring the bank to get approval. I had once or twice, I don't know if you had, excuse me, can you keep the customer's card, cut it up right in front of them? They were the fun days of some of the things in the shift in the workforce. But from an employee point of view, it was traditional structure. You work the hours that were set, that's the hours, that's the job, that's when we need you and that's when you'll come to work. So that's what we had. The job ads in the local papers, there's certainly no Seek back then, but Sharon, you'd remember when we used to open a new store, all the applications used to come in the post or dropped under the door. And I remember as a young store manager, I'd be sitting at home and I'd have the yes, the no and the maybe pile. Like there was stacks of applications, wouldn't it? Yep. And you'd move some maybes to the yes, you know what your definite no's were. But we had the luxury back then of interviewing a lot of different people and picking the best people that we wanted out of all those applications back in the day. Long-term job security, as you heard before, I spent 18 years at Lowe's, I spent 10 years at Maloo Pharmacies. That was what we were looking for on resumes. We wanted job stability. You stayed there and that's what you did. And the culture and flexibility weren't even part of our vocabulary back then. Again, it was just probably, as some of my builder mates say, just a teaspoon of cement, harden up and get on with the job. That's leave your problems at the front door. So that was some of the workforce back then. Now, what are we looking at? Hybrid, flexible work is expected. No longer is it just a luxury to say, oh, we may offer that. Flexibility is here to stay, and in fact, Fair Work have got it, as Ben will talk to in the legislation. The Fair Work are the flexible work arrangements for certain types of people who can request. So it's there and it's here to stay. Not all jobs you can work from home, of course, but that's when you look at early start, late finish, going home early, go to the gym at lunchtime. What are the things we can offer to provide flexibility for our workforce? Employees do want purpose, they want to be developed, and they want well-being, as we talked about. And of course, recruiting is tougher. And Sharon, you know, you would talk to that. I was just on the phone to a client before we started today. Des, it's just getting tougher and tougher still to find staff. As we all know, we're all nodding around the room. It's harder. And is it harder since COVID, and has people's minds shifted in what they want from work? Susie was telling me stories before of lots of people just turning up for work, doing 3 days and then disappearing, waiting for their 3 days pay to come. There's lots of challenges out there for us. I'd like to work like that. But, you know, 4-day weeks are a thing. There's businesses out there offering 4-day weeks or 9-day fortnights and trying to make it work for people to get that balance. They want to work for strong organisational cultures. They want to feel part of a good culture and value. They do want career growth. Sometimes we know they want to know that in week 1. I've started today as a junior employee. Where am I headed and when? When will I get there? And wellness programs and work-life balance, such a big part of workplaces today that people want. So I love this quote. Jobs will ask for 3 references, and I think I might start doing the same. Please let me talk to 3 happy employees. We want to know what they've been like in their work past. I want to know, am I going to come and work for you? Is it going to be a good place to work? How happy are your staff? And it talks there, engaged teams are more productive, less likely to leave. People first values, like I said about my stories and my mentors. Stay agile to attract and retain top talent. We have to look differently at the workforce now in transferable skills, things like that, Sharon, you would say, and what can we bring to our workforce? They might not have it on paper, but what's deeper that they could bring to our workplace that might make us unique. And then I won't talk to all of this, but yeah, that ethics first culture. I'm not sure what you think about the show A Current Affair. Some love it, some hate it. But, geez, if you do the wrong thing, they're going to hunt you down. I was watching it again the other night. There's a few businesses on there, just they come knocking at your door. It's got to be what is the right thing to do with every decision. And that's what your staff want too, not only with you, but as it says, customers, community, society, and the environment these days. What is the right thing to do? And we want an ethics-first culture. We want to be able to trust our management team. And you can see some of that there, ethical leadership, encouragement to speak out. If I've got a leader or a manager that says to me, Des, why did they call you and tell you that? Why didn't they come to me on that one? I normally put it back to the owner and say, you have to ask that. It's your question to answer. You need to be creating that environment where your people feel comfortable to come to you about anything, which includes I need a mental health day, or I'm struggling, or I need support. Because sometimes, as we know, that first step is big, and we have to be able to help manage that and direct them in the right area. That wasn't me, by the way. So leadership, as it's got there, is not a position or title, it's an action or example. Have you worked with people that put the manager badge on? I'm the manager here. I've had people say, and you would too, I'm the manager, I need respect. That's cool. But you have to earn it, as we all know in the room. It boosts performance, retention and morale, sets the tone of the business. So that leadership is just so critical. And notice it says leadership, not manager. It's just got to be every day. And then we know, do you know when you have an off day that your staff pick up on it or your team pick up on it? Sometimes it's like, whoa, they're not on the game today. I'm going to have a great day. But when you're a leader, setting the example in everything you do and how you deal with things, and that's really critical for us in life, not just at work. So here's some skills that I thought, and Kate, everyone will get these slides, won't they? But competencies for leading the organisation, and then look at the competencies for leading others. So interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence. Those soft skills are so important these days. Being attuned with your people, yourself, understanding your leadership style, and knowing your people and how to get the best out of everyone, and having those interpersonal skills. People management, the other one that we'll talk about is communication. You can see the competencies there for leading the organisation. And for yourself, having a bit of courage, industry experience. Again, you're here today. Have many of you got teams of people that you have back at the workplace while you're sitting here today? Can I just get a show of hands? So a lot of you are managing up to 10 staff, 20 staff, maybe 30 staff, anyone? Smaller businesses, but they're there while you're here, hopefully, going to come back and have some different ideas across the day of how you're going to manage things differently. And then leading by example. Again, I learned as a young manager early on, our example matters. And it says there, it's one of the most crucial things you can do. You go first if you want everyone else to be enthusiastic, devoted, committed and motivated. You have to do that on a daily basis, and you have to set the tone. As we always know, if you're going to ask people to do something, you have to be able to do it yourself first and show them how to do it and be positive with it and make that difference. So then communication is a particular topic of mine, because I see a lot across my clients where it's done well, and I see a lot across my clients where it's done really bad. Particularly things like I hear, we had a staff meeting today. I had to stay back for a staff meeting. Yep, great. The manager spoke for 30 minutes and then we went home. Do you think that's a staff meeting? No, that's a manager's meeting. But staff meetings should be where we're involving our teams to talk and giving them an opportunity to be involved in the meeting, have a say. The amount of times my wife will come home after staying back every Tuesday for a staff meeting. Did you get an opportunity today to talk? No input from the floor, just the manager. And that's all that's coming across. Communication is the number one skill, and it's two-way. but we're not good at it. So we need to learn how to have better communications with our staff and talk to them better day to day, whether that's working in the store, afterwards, asking them questions, asking about that last client they saw. That's one of the key things, holding the regular check-in. So one of my clients where I started, there was a big divide between upstairs and downstairs in the building. Upstairs didn't talk to downstairs and downstairs didn't talk to upstairs, and emails and conflict. So every Monday I'm on site with this client. So what we implemented was a weekly stand-up. So it's Des's stand-up. I lead it on a Monday afternoon. Yeah, not that kind of stand-up. And we have a bit of an agenda, and it's just about, okay, what's happening in the business? What are we working on? And then I take the opportunity every Monday afternoon to also add, a motivational talk or mental health talk or something different to try and just continue to build those teams. But it's about challenging people who don't normally hold the floor to give an update. What are you working on? What do you need from the rest of the departments? You really should be doing, where possible, something like that at least once a week. Do you do that in your business? Nodding? No. But thank you for nodding. Yes. But you should try to get some sort of opportunity for people. And it's hard, isn't it? Because there are people working from home, there's hybrid. How do you make that work? You've got to find a way. And I did see before, managing people remotely is a new skill as well. A lot of managers struggle with, how do I manage my people from home? Can I trust them? Will I make them spend 2 hours, Des, filling out a timesheet on what they did? Think that's good? Think that's good use of time? As a manager, you have to actually manage harder for your hybrid people, for your people that work from home. You've got to communicate with them. You've got to include them. You've got to make sure you check in on them. If you're worried about that they're not doing their work and they're watching Netflix and going off and without telling you, then make sure you do regular check-ins. Talk. What are you working on? How did you go with that? Everything going okay? What do you need? We need you in the office next Wednesday. You've got to communicate with them and involve them in everything within the business. And then the active listening is very important as well. The old saying you might have heard, do we listen to respond or are we listen to understand? I've been guilty of it in the past, ready with the next thing to say. You've got to stop, listen, what are they saying, and really understand what they're talking about. And then build that trust through empowerment. You're delegating the meaningful work, encourage ownership of work and celebrate effort. That's one of the first things we do on that Monday stand-up is, what are our wins? Anything personal anyone wants to share. Renee, you just did a half marathon on the weekend. John, you did this, we saw. Talk about a couple of personal things first. Celebrate birthdays, anniversaries. My goodness, the amount of workplaces I've been at where someone's birthday and they sit at the workplace all day. Maybe they don't want anyone to know, but sometimes it gets missed. It's their birthday, they just sat there all day and they've gone home and no one said anything. You should have, as leaders in your diary, when's everyone's birthdays, when's their anniversary dates. That's the other thing we miss so much, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. We should be documenting those and have them in your calendar. Just say, hey, congratulations, it's your 2 years today. Hey, everybody, it's Susie's 2 years with the business. Those small things, does that make sense? Like, they're easy to do. And bring in a little cake or whatever. And then when you get to the 5 years, can you order from a trophy place a nice plaque that they can have, or, a dinner voucher or whatever it is. They're things that I think are pretty easy to bring into the business that make a big difference to people. Hey, they celebrated my birthday at work today. We don't know. And the other part of it is, we don't know, all of us have challenging lives outside of work. All of us are dealing with lots of different things, as I'm sure Tom, our psychologist, would agree to. And work might be, the outlet for the day, the safe place. Getting there. And then the smart goals. We always talk about the SMART goals. So the specific, the measured, the achievable, the relevant, and the timely goals. So do you set goals with your team and make sure those goals align to the business? What's their purpose? Really should be working with people to set some goals. What do you think an important thing is when you've set those goals and they're working on them? What do you think would be a nice, good next step? Anyone want to have a guess? not all at once. Maybe follow up. And I've got another colleague who shared with me, I was talking about this, 12 years she's been putting in the system her SMART goals. Never once has anyone asked her about them. They're for reporting purposes. It's a big business, admittedly, but they're for reporting purpose to tick a box. But I asked her, how long does it take her? Probably 90 minutes once a year to do the SMART goals. Never once in 12 years has anyone come back and said, how are you going with that? You want to talk about it? How are you progressing? Never. Not once. So what's going to happen when you try to implement new things in the workplace or make change? It's like when we do a survey. Everybody, we're doing a survey. We've got 80% follow-up from the team. That's great. Do we ever do anything with it? Sometimes we don't. We store it away and then guess what? Hey, we're doing a survey, everybody. We want to improve the workplace. That's great, but we haven't heard back from the last one. So little things like that are important. So sit down with your team, and it doesn't have to be the full-on performance reviews these days. The jury's out on how we do, but it could be more regular, more timely, more opportunity for feedback. And as Ben will talk to as well, I'm a big fan of if there's things that aren't working, get onto them early. People appreciate the feedback. Hey, you've only been here 3 months. These are the things I've seen that you're doing really well. These are the things that I would love you to work on. I'm also a big fan of the 30, 60, 90-day plan. And we'll talk about that with the next slide. So investing in your people development. So a lot of businesses get scared or get concerned that, okay, I've got to get training for my staff. How am I going to put that in the budget? How do I budget for training? How much do I budget? Really only 10% of training our people could be allocated to a training budget in formal training with structured e-learning, certifications, conferences, etc. 70% of our learning for our people you can actually do on the job. And 20% of that can be with a mentor, someone to talk to them, someone to help encourage them. But a lot of it's real-time, on-the-job assignments, cross-functional projects, as it says, and then coaching, feedback, and then look at what courses might be relevant for their future growth. But 10%. So where I was getting to with that, particularly with new people, you'll see in some of the flyers, that onboarding. I'm not spending a lot of time on recruitment and onboarding today, but again, the old days was welcome, Des, this is your job. You start over there, off you go, I'll see you at lunch. Yep, a few nods around. That's how we started. Is that good for these days? No, someone's maybe given up a job where they've had to give 4 weeks notice. They maybe were in a job, they were happy but wanted to change, maybe wanted a little bit more money, and then they turned up to start with you. What's day one look like? Have they got the office set up? Have they got a nice welcome pack? Is there a coffee voucher? Have they got a buddy? And then 30, 60, 90 days I always like to work to. What's your plan so you can sit down with your new employee and say, right, this is what we want you to achieve in the first 30 days, and then we'll work on 60 and then we'll work on 90. And I'd normally do it on a spreadsheet so we can put comments in and things like that and work together on there. Because it's nice for them to go home and think, right, I know where I'm headed for the first 3 months of this new job. Because the amount of people I get call me to say, I don't really like this job, and they're 2-3 months in. As we all know, 6 months minimum for someone to really find out if they're enjoying that job. That doesn't mean they're perfect for the role in 6 months. But for them to think that they've made the right decision normally takes about that amount of time. But some of it's up to you. Have they made the right decision is up to you. So think about your training and your opportunities. And as Kate said before, so much opportunities for training out there now that doesn't cost a bucket load, but just make sure you tailor it to your people. And then, yeah, as I said, measure and evolve culture. So use surveys and feedback, follow up on them. What did I see? A funny meme yesterday. It said, HR, we're still following up those people who haven't completed the anonymous survey. And then manager said to employee, HR said you haven't completed the survey yet. Sometimes there is that worry with anonymous surveys. Is it anonymous? So that's where the communication and talking to your people and encouraging open feedback. But you should still measure your culture. Track your metrics like engagement, your turnover in staff, morale, exit surveys, particularly when good people leave the business. Find out from them. Find out. The only thing you don't want to find out why they're unhappy when you get the resignation on the desk. We're trying to avoid getting to that point where possible. I'm resigning, and then it's too late. Then it's about trying to save face, try and fix what the issues are, and it's too late a lot of the times. So we need to be getting onto that earlier and adapt and improve based on feedback where you can. Again, it might be little things that might make a big difference to that person. Sometimes it's not all about pay. But are those questions coming up right now because we're at the start of the new financial year? Absolutely. There's a lot of people out there thinking, I heard on the news that Fair Work's just put wages up. Surely my boss will be coming to me at some point. And that's even for the non-award employees, for your salaried employees as well. You've got to think about on the front foot with your salary increases, and then don't wait again till it's too late. What's your budgets? Is there scope? How have they been performing? Can you have those chats? $5,000 increase versus how much to onboard a new employee, Sharon?
Well, as they say now these days, 240,000 for an average employee by the time you do downtime and then the new cost.
Sorry, 240,000? Okay, righto. I'm sorry I asked you. But it's a lot of money more than a $5,000 increase. And your time and your effort and knowing the employment market as it is, it makes sense, doesn't it? Look at your salaries, look at your good people. How nice is it to get to them before they get to you, where possible, rather than being on the back foot? I think it makes good business sense. All right, I'm going to be good for time, Kate. So, yeah, leadership is about influence, certainly not control. I like that comment. Culture does require intention. So it does require you to think about your business and how you can do things differently, not just turn up every day and go about it. Like you coming here today, like I said, is a great first start, and being consistent. And then I'm hoping, you might write down, and not to share with the group, but, what are the one or two meaningful changes that you might make when you go back to the business on leadership, culture, managing your people, looking at your people differently. And then, we'll lead into Ben in terms of sometimes, there are people within the team that may not fit, and how do I manage that? That's a big part of what I get phone calls on as well. Okay, Des, I've got this issue. They've been here a long time. How do I deal with it? What do I do? And, certainly Ben's going to help lead into that, because as we know, there's rules. You can't just do what we used to do. Well, not what I used to do, but what we used to do to say, there's the door, off you go. Take your teaspoon of cement on the way. Times change. We have to do things the right way. We have to look after and respect people. And we're worried, we have to be concerned about brand reputation. Social media these days, we know, is a big thing. Performance management, that's one of the big days. I can't get them off their phone. They're watching Netflix. There's so much mobile phones, and using your devices at work is another pandemic on its own. But you've got to be on top of these things. That's where you don't let things fester. You have to manage it. You have to communicate. You have to tell people what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in the workplace. And the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but certainly building the new. Don't fight the old. Think about new ways. It's good. It's refreshing for you as well. I love it. That's people ask me, why am I in HR? Are you mad? After all these years dealing with what I deal with. But we're all people. And because I've come from a background of menswear, pharmacy and those industries, I'm very fortunate now in my role. I work across manufacturing, disability services, waste management, all sorts of different industries, because people are people in a workplace doing their job. It doesn't matter what industry. We're all there to do a job and create opportunities for ourselves and our families. But I guess the final message for me on that, the workplace has changed in how we need to retain and look after and respect our teams. Still deal with things that Ben will talk to you about. Tom's going to talk to you about the other passionate area of mine is the mental health aspect. It's part of what we manage in the workplace, and we need to be mindful and embrace that our people will have different needs and how do we support them. And Tom's going to talk about that, but he's also going to talk about, you first, I think, today. And then the last thing I want to do is Kate's given more goodies. So we're launching today our pocket guide to build a stronger team. So they're already out, Kate, on the tables. We did one on recruitment before and they called it Des in your pocket. But this one's building you coined it Des in your pocket. But this is building a stronger team. So it talks lots of things, creating write a great job ad, hire for fit, diversify, lots of different tips there.
And they can QR code.
Oh, yeah, and you can QR code to all the resources. Everything's free. Again, funded by the state government through the Redlands Jobs Committee and created by our wonderful team, Crest Marketing, down the back there. They do a great job of producing all these for us and all our online content. And then the last one's the onboarding 101, simple checklist for Redlands employers on onboarding your employees. And again, QR codes. So everything's got QR codes, so you can go electronically, download and use what you need. So I think we're leaving questions until we do the panel. So we'll have a panel after. But thank you for participating. Hopefully you've taken something from what I've shared this morning. I am passionate in this area. So if you want to talk at morning tea or lunch, please do. And thanks, Susie.